Namaskaram, everyone, and welcome to the Awakened Soul podcast, a place where we integrate ancient yogic wisdom into modern living. I'm your co host and spiritual seeker, Dr. Crystal Asong.
I'm your host as well, Dennis DeVos, spiritual teacher.
Good morning, Dennis.
Oh, blessed morning.
How are you today? It's been a while. It's nice to see you again.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Very energetic. I like seeing you here as well.
Yeah, thank you. So glad we're here again today.
Right.
And after recording the first two episodes together, I'm quite excited about this one in particular because we have another very interesting topic today, and I think our listeners will also benefit from it, hopefully, right, by the end of our conversation. And the title of our topic for today is How to Live a Conscious Life.
Oh, wonderful topic.
Yeah. Or in other words, how to live a life by design and not by default.
I love that. Yeah.
So let me just start off with this preface, right? Our definition of normal is very much messed up. It's completely misconstrued, right? When we say normal, what do we think about? Like nowadays, I mean, with all due respect, right? I'm not trying to put shade on anyone, but when we say normal, it usually means being sick and medicated.
Oh, dear.
It means being obese, being alcohol dependent, being broke just to keep up with the Jonases, being socially anxious, going to a job that you hate. It means being emotionally unregulated. It means 7 hours of screen time a day. It means all these kinds of things, right?
You're describing the human population
Yeah.
in general. Yeah.
Yeah, human population in general. And that's very, very unfortunate. But unfortunately, this is the reality that we live in. This is what is considered the norm in the eyes of society, right? But as we know from probably our own past personal experiences or from previous histories, what is considered as normal is not necessarily the truth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? So, in your opinion, Dennis, how the heck did we end up here?
As a society?
I mean, we can take it wherever we want, as a society, as an individual. Like, how have we come to this place?
Oh, good. That's a good reflection, a good start to this topic. See, the word normal comes from the word norm. And what is norm? Just saying, what is norm? We naturally consider that as normal, right? At least socially apt to use the word normal because it comes from the word norm. But if the norm of a society per se, has become so abnormal, okay, or
Abnormal.
rather unnatural. See, just a quick question. Is joy natural or anxiety natural? Which one is more natural?
I would say joy would be natural.
Sure, for someone who has been anxious their whole life, they will
They
say
would say,
anxiety
or
is
depression
natural,
is
right?
normal, or mental health disorder is normal.
Right, so we're not trying to put them down, these people, with all due respect and compassion. What we're giving a new light to this topic, right? And the way you open up this topic, how do we get into this new normal? And this new normal is not a face mask on. This new normal is a physiological, psychological change within ourselves, and like the screen time you mentioned, like dreading the work that you do, and just becoming a whole bag of sour lemon. I don't know what I should say about this, right?
Yeah.
So how do we get here? It's interesting because there are many factors, but the number one factor that I can think of is because we are trying to be like everyone else. And there are other factors, definitely. See, the problem is, I like how Oscar Wilde said this. He said, "Don't try to be everyone. Don't try to be anyone else, because everyone else is taken."
Oh, that's beautiful.
So, I think the problem with society at large in this context is we want to become like everyone else. Of course, whoever we think is more beautiful, more attractive, more successful, more this and that, you fill in the blanks, we want to become like them. And in the pursuit of becoming somebody else other than yourself, your true self, really, is that you lose who you are in the process. And when you lose who you are, bits by bits, gradually, eventually, we become this society where, we are just, a nice word would be indulging, but an appropriate word here would be, we are just fitting in. And in the process of fitting in, we are nobody. Okay, not in a spiritual sense, nobody, not in that sense, but nobody, because we have lost ourselves, right?
I think one of the reasons why a lot of people, are trying to be like everyone else is because if they are different, then they will be, considered an outcast, or because we've seen in history, right?
Right.
Like past history, things that have happened. If someone is considered different or, black sheep among the herd, we see how these people have been ostracized, whether it's because of their different way of thinking, different way of showing up in the world, or how they carry themselves, right? If you're different, if you're not the same like the herd or like the masses, if you choose to go against the grain, then you'll be outcasted.
Correct.
And also it's part of our survival mechanism, right? Primitively, as we're not animals, but
Yeah.
in this
Sometimes worse than
society,
animals.
but in society, right? It's just part of our survival mechanism to be able to fit in and blend in, and to cooperate with one another, with the tribe, or else we will be isolated, and that will not ensure our survival, right?
See, it works for animals. It works really well. If, say, you're a school of fish, you're a fish in a school of fish, and I like the word a school of fish, right? And because the word school sounds like they're learning something, right? And then just going around, traveling like a school bus, going here, there, and sometimes certain school of fish they stretch for miles, and no, the point is, if you're a fish in the ocean, in a school of fish, you feel protected, you feel safe. And for a larger fish, a larger predator, it really negates the possibility of you being eaten. Sure, there will still be a few out of the millions, a few. So the probability is very low, especially if you're in the middle pack of the fish, the school of fish. But unfortunately, the reality is such that you have evolved out of your supposedly your animal nature. Sure, some of it is still sticking onto you, your reptilian brain, for example, is still with you. But you're no longer an animal. At least that's what we call you, a human being. So if you still stick to the ways of the wild, the ways of the animals, you're missing out much of life, right? So namely, what I'm trying to say is, an animal does not have the consciousness that you possess. Simply put, they may have superior strength, they may have certain speeds that you unimaginable, they may have certain survival abilities that are far beyond your capabilities, but they do not have your level of consciousness, what we deem as human consciousness. So now that you have come as a human being, it's no longer the ways of the animals for you. If you're conscious enough for this, right? At least this much, so that you cannot act, think, or operate the same way an animal does. So it has to go beyond survival after this, right? Once your basic needs are taken care of, your food, your shelter, your water, I'm skipping out sex, you can include that. Once those basic needs are taken care of, you have to evolve beyond your animalistic nature. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think this is a nice segue to the next conversation or the next discussion that I want to bring us. Most of society, right? Most of us, we live life on autopilot based on what we've been taught or been indoctrinated, whether by our parents, by our teachers, the education system, by mass media, or just society at large, right, about how to live. And we don't question the status quo until something very tragic happens to us that just knocks us off our feet, shakes our inner world to its core
Yeah.
and just wakes us up from our deep unconscious slumber, right? Yeah.
Brilliant way to put it. Yeah.
All the ideas, all the philosophies, all the beliefs that were once the foundation or pillars that hold all of our lives together started to crumble down, and it leaves us questioning all the things we ever believe to be true about the world, about our lives, right? And this can be very disconcerting for a lot of people because human beings, as we all know, we're just creatures of comfort. We love familiarity and predictability, right? I mean, primitively, it's a good thing because it ensures our survival, but the pitfall comes when we live life unconsciously based on our past programming or conditioning,
Yeah.
right? But if we want to be able to transcend beyond our survival instincts, our survival mechanism, and if we are truly devoted to our spiritual path, right, we have to go beyond. We have to, not be pushed around by our survival instincts, and we have to start living life consciously rather than unconsciously,
Yeah.
right? So my first question is, since we're on the topic of, how to live a conscious life and how we can do that, let's just cover the basics first.
Yeah.
Cover the definitions. What is consciousness?
Doesn't sound basic at all.
It sounds very simple, right?
Yeah,
Like,
but
what
it's
is
very
consciousness?
deep.
Just 3 words, but
Okay.
I'm sure it's
This is a
more
good
complex
start.
than that. Yeah.
Now, I think this is important that we clear up the room because there's a lot of confusion and misconception surrounding this simple word. It's a very long word, but simple word. Consciousness, right? It's not the easiest word to spell. See, a lot of times when we throw around this word, consciousness, people automatically think of the mind. Now, that's not wrong. That's just far from the truth. It's not wrong, right? Hear me out. Because this word is used in so many ways. Now, if you're using the word consciousness referring to the mind, then I think it really much fits into, say, the medical science of things, where we are describing the levels of wakefulness of the mind. And that's fine. That's appropriate. So when we talk about neuroscience and medical science, for instance, here we're saying consciousness as in the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind. And that is a perfect description, right? But now, when we talk about consciousness, right? I don't want to capitalize the C, but you can for the sake of differentiating it into this topic of spirituality, of consciousness, of awakening. It's not of the mind. So we're not talking about the conscious mind, we're not talking about the subconscious mind, we're not talking about the unconscious mind. Now, this consciousness is something more fundamental. See, again, circling back, because I want everyone who is tuning in and listening to be very clear, at least this much, that when we talk about consciousness here and henceforth, we are not referring to the 3 levels of the conscious, subconscious, unconscious mind. We're not referring to the mind at all. Now, this quote is very important for you to differentiate things. Consciousness is not of the mind, but the mind is of consciousness. In other words, consciousness is not a subcomponent in the mind. In fact, mind is a very tiny component in the whole vastness of what consciousness is. Can you imagine what I'm saying? It's like a cloud in the sky. The sky is not in the cloud. So between the sky and the cloud, which is consciousness? Which do you think?
The sky.
Definitely.
The vast sky, right?
Right. So whether they are dark clouds, whether they are light colored clouds, whether they are some strange colored clouds, I think they're beautiful. Those things, those clouds, they are what we refer to as the mind. Okay, the activities of the mind, the contents of the mind. But the vastness of consciousness itself, that will be synonymous to the sky or to the space, right? I think that analogy will help us to understand this moving forward. So what is consciousness? Consciousness is, this is as close as language gets me to really, get very close to the gist, the essence of what consciousness is, because it's everything. If I just say consciousness is everything, then it makes no sense to most viewers who are new to this, right? But truthfully, it is everything. But to make sense out of this, right, you can think of it as the fundamental intelligence, the life behind life itself. What am I talking about? See, what you call as your life and my life, they're different, right? You have your life, I have my life. When I say, hey, how's your life, Crystal? Like when we have not met for a couple months, and suddenly I bump into you and, hey, Crystal, how are you? Good to see you. How's life? Then you tell me, oh yeah, I just changed my job, or yeah, I just started this podcast, right? I just invested in this fund. Oh, I just came back from this country, from my travels, all this amazing stuff that you have done. That's usually what we refer to as life, okay? Or at least your life versus my life, right? And I would have done a series of other things, invested in other things, right? And that's all cool. That's social language. But fundamental life, okay, the life behind your life, the life behind my life, the essence of that, that is unchanging. You understand what I'm trying to say? That is unchanging means there is no differentiation between your life, my life, and your life, right? There is no, I have to use a bigger word here. There's no separation or point of separation, separatedness between our lives when I talk about consciousness that way. So consciousness is, if you want to, as much as possible, logically understand this, what we are right now, right? What we are right now. We say we are alive because of this body is still beating, is still doing its intended functions. So we are alive. But where did this body come from? Very quickly, can you tell me where does this human body come from?
I mean, most people would say, it comes from the womb of our mom and, our ancestors, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, after going through this
Right.
spiritual journey with you, our body, I mean, in essence, it comes from nature, right?
Absolutely.
The source of all creation.
And most you can accredit, give credit where it's due. So we give credit to our, beloved mom. She gave you one cell. Okay, that started this whole body. Then your dad also, he gave you one cell. Actually, he gave you a lot of cells, but all of them don't work. Just one. Okay, who won the race?
Yeah.
So 2 cells, they contributed 2 cells, but the rest of it did not come from them. Let's be honest. Yes, mom has done a lot of work, right, during pregnancy. But what fundamentally contributed to this growth, right? You call fertilization, you call, what words do you call this process of?
Oh, fertilization.
Is that,
and
you're the doctor. Is there more words to that? Okay, no, yeah, fertilization will do, right?
the
growth,
starting point. Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so basically the gestation, the germination, fertilization, that sounds like I'm a plant now. So what happens then? There's nutrients going in and multiplication happens. Now there must be something more fundamental, even within that one singular cell from both parents, even within those one singular cell, there must be a fundamental intelligence that's operating, that's organizing, that's orchestrating this growth. And of course, as you were born, you were this size. How do you grow into this beautiful adult lady size, right? How do you grow into this size? I don't want to guess your weight, but let's say 50-ish kilos, right? How do you grow
very
from
generous of you.
3 kilos to 50-ish kilos? How do you grow into that? Again, through food, nutrients, of course, sunlight, water. Now you're sounding like a plant, a real plant. Okay. Now the point is, everything that you call as your body, right? Whichever part of this body you call as your body, it came from nature. Can we agree on this?
Yeah.
So why is it when, I'm going to extend this, right? This analogy. Why is it when you eat a banana versus when a monkey eats a banana, It's a different thing. No, it's the same fruit and same food, same nutrients. But when you eat banana, you become more of a human. When a monkey eats a banana, it becomes more of a monkey. My dog eats banana as well, just for your,
Oh, it's very
when a dog
healthy.
eats a banana, it becomes more of a dog in terms of bodily, physical size. So why is it? There must be a fundamental intelligence which we have totally neglected and ignored, that is behind the scenes all the time working, doing things that we are cannot imagine. It's beyond what your brain does, what your chemical activity does, or your hormonal. It's beyond all these things. What I'm saying, because do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. So you're saying there's a fundamental intelligence that is governing not only our body but everything in existence, right? Like
Thank
there's
you.
this source of creation that is converging into one point. I mean, this is how I understand it, right?
Yeah.
Like behind your life, behind my life, there's this, like, I don't know, feel of energy or source of creation that converges into one point, and that is consciousness. That is the intelligence that governs everything and makes sure everything runs in place and smoothly. Is that
The
it?
converging is only necessary when you want to talk about a specific form. Like when we say human consciousness, right? We want to be specific about it. See, just to be clear, since we're on the topic of consciousness, I want to really still clear this. There's a lot of misconception surrounding this word. Let me ask you this very quick one. Do you think an animal is conscious?
Yes.
Okay, a dog, for example, just to be precise. Okay, any dog, any breed. Like, oh, which breed? Is it a Chihuahua? Then maybe not so much.
Maybe a poodle would be more conscious.
Maybe, or a bigger dog would be more conscious. No. Like, it's a dog conscious, just generally.
Yes.
Okay,
But
then really it depends, right?
But yeah, so it depends on
So yes, it's the right
consciousness
answer.
level, conscious
Wrong,
level.
no, maybe also a correct answer here. So it really depends. But now if I change the language a bit, there's only one answer, right? Just now earlier when I say is the dog conscious, it really depends. How conscious? It's basic conscious, yes, right? Because it's alive, it can learn a few tricks, it can listen to a few commands. It is conscious in that sense. But is it conscious to the level of human consciousness? Obviously not. So it really depends. But now let me change the question. Do dogs have consciousness? There's only one answer. What do you think?
Yeah, based on your explanation earlier,
Definitely. They
the
have.
answer would be yes. Yeah.
Now we're gonna just deepen this, right? We're gonna extend this. What are some other? All right, monkeys. Do monkeys have consciousness? Okay,
Yeah.
dogs, monkeys. Now let's try insects. Do grasshoppers have consciousness?
Yes.
Really?
I mean, if we're talking about animated objects, it's easy. It's
Yeah,
easy and
okay.
obvious to say, right? But
So dragonflies, a housefly, a mosquito, yes.
yeah, even a virus or a bacteria,
All right, we're going that far.
probably. Yeah.
I'll talk about something bigger then. Okay, a tree. Does it have consciousness? Now you have to
Yes.
think. Okay, still a yes.
Yeah. I mean,
All right,
based on
fantastic.
your earlier explanation.
But it's not that animated anymore, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
but it's
still
alive. It's alive, yeah.
Okay, now we're gonna really test the waters now. Is a rock? Does a rock have consciousness?
Because it's still a live thing.
Oh,
I think it would be
I think aside from
bit
geologists
more
or meteorologists,
obvious.
no one would agree with you when you say something like this. A rock is alive. A geologist, a gemologist may agree with you because they are all into all these things, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, most people would not agree with you. That doesn't mean you're wrong, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, now this is where the tipping point is like, oh, I can take it when you say a dog, a cat, an animal, an insect, more or less, a plant was really testing it. Now you're pushing it so far, Dennis, you're asking, do rocks have consciousness?
But I think it would be harder if you ask someone like if it's something that is not alive or inanimated, for example, like this microphone, or does this curtain have consciousness?
Okay.
Right? Or this sofa right here, does it have consciousness? For real?
So for the sake of conversation, I we can talk about it like this as well, but for the sake of it, we'll keep it to all things nature. At least the point that is very, evidential. Grass, okay, again, is like a plant, a flower, right? The soil, the waters, the air, the space around, they all have consciousness. So my point is everything have consciousness. Just that if I have to put it into logical words so that you can crunch this more than an idea, this truth, into bite size. So consciousness is asleep in rocks. It is becoming awake in plants, trees, flora. It is awake in animals. And it is awakening in humans. Can I put it like that? Can you
it's
understand?
very beautiful, yeah. Are there different levels of consciousness?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you explain more about that?
Oof. Okay, so have you heard of the word or the sound A-U-M?
The mantra chant, right?
Right. Now, most esoteric and Eastern cultures, I'm speaking of what you famously know as Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism, right? They use unanimously. So without contest or conflict, who to whom does it belong, to what does it mean? It has its own sets of meanings, but there's no conflict because unanimously, is the universal sound. So it comes from this oldest language in the world, Sanskrit. So because it's a word, but it's made of three sounds. Okay, I, A, A, U, U, and M, Now, to call it a word, it's okay, but if I were to give you the meaning, for the sake of the audiences, it's simply just the sound of the universe. Okay, in fact, if I were to go back, and it will come back, or I'll come back to your point, right? At the levels of consciousness,
Yeah.
I just want to correlate it to this sound or beach mantra. See, when the universe first started, okay, modern science tells you that it started with a big bang. So the bang, the sound, bang is a sound. Okay,
Yeah.
let's be real. Bang is a sound. It's an explosion of sound. And it's not an explosion that we can fathom. It's a cosmic explosion that we're talking about. And then creation came to be. The universe came to be. The known universe, right? So it started with these three sounds. But in fact, these three sounds are still ongoing. But the bang cannot be heard anymore. At least not with the human ears, right? I'm saying it started with a big bang, but now billions of years later, it's still going on. So the three sounds are u, but to consolidate it, we go Of course, certain cultures they consolidate it even further. They go om,
Yeah.
right? Now, what has this aum got to do with consciousness or the levels of consciousness? So the ancient rishis, I'm not a scholar of any kind. I don't do academics well, but you can find this in the Mandukya Upanishads or the other Upanishads or the Vedas for what matters. They found A to be the waking state in humans. We're talking about human consciousness. Let's just stick with human consciousness. Rock consciousness is a bit harder to talk about. I mean, nothing much to talk about, respectfully, right? So, A is the waking waking consciousness. When you're alert, when you're awake. Whatever you do about 16, 18 hours of the day, if you sleep 6 hours, then there'll be 18 hours, throughout the day. You walk, you eat, you talk, you sleep. Before you fall asleep, but you're on the bed, right? Or you're showering, you're doing your sports, those things, waking consciousness, which is symbolized by A, ah. Now the U, which is you, symbolizes the dream state. Now this is already when you have gone to sleep, but you are, circadian rhythm where dreams do happen. And even though most people claim, no, I have a dreamless night.
Yeah.
Most likely, and of course subconsciously, you were still dreaming. Maybe the dreams were not those very threatening and
Or as
very
intense,
wild,
or
intense dreams, and that's why you don't remember them. Okay, but most likely, you still have dreams. Most people have 6 to 8 dreams per night. Yeah, some 8 to 15
So we
dreams.
don't remember them.
Just we only remember the last dream before we wake up. So
Yeah.
the dreamy state. So this is also consciousness, a certain level of consciousness. All right. Now you're not conscious. When you're dreaming, you're not conscious, but you are playing a certain character. So in your dream, again, depending how vivid, how lucid, how different your dream is, right? How wild it is, you're playing a certain character. You may be still the same person. You may recognize yourself. Sometimes, most likely, you don't recognize yourself. You're playing a certain character, a certain role, right? So there's still a certain level of consciousness involved. But it's not that you are conscious. You cannot be conscious about it. If you're conscious about it, then of course we would use the word lucid dreaming. So the second one is symbolized by U, which is the dreamy state. Now the third state, M, symbolized by the This is the dreamless state of consciousness, where there are no dreams. We call this deep sleep, right? Where you feel absolutely great afterwards. During it, you wouldn't know. Why? When you're in a state of deep sleep, let me ask you this, Crystal. Do you even know where you are?
No.
Do you even know what you're doing?
No.
When you're in a state of deep sleep, now the people around you who are watching you, let's hope that does not happen. They know. They know you're there, they know you're sleeping, but you don't know a thing. To the extent you don't even know who you are, like what your name is, you don't even know if you exist. True or not? In a state of deep sleep or dreamless state, which is symbolized by M, there's no you, no self, no sense of self at least, right? But you're still there physically, just no sense of self. But that does not mean consciousness is gone. In fact, this is a deeper level of consciousness. So we're transitioning from A to U to M, but it does not stop there. There's one more level that I'm going to go talk about in a bit. So M is in fact a very deep state. So this can be, today in modern science, we can testify or validate this, right? Measure this in some sense with the brainwave measurement. Now again, please may I say this, that consciousness is not of the mind, but mind is of consciousness. So mind is a small component. The physical aspect would be the brain, right? So mind and brain are synonymous for this. So mind is a small component of the vastness of consciousness, which is what we're talking about, the different levels of consciousness. So at this dreamless state, the third one, this would be where we say delta. The brainwaves will be delta. Sometimes theta, but moving towards delta. So it's very slow, less than 4 hertz, if you measure it, around 4 hertz. So if we were to use a different language to describe what I just said, and of course I'll go to the fourth level in a bit. The first stage is very gross, very physical. So consciousness is very much linked or tied to the physical realm. In fact, to your physical body, you're very much identified as the body, right? Doing things, I'm doing this, I'm going here. So you're very much with the body. Now, the second level of consciousness is you're slightly, right, away from the body. But it's subtle. It's subtle. So we would for the sake of language, I would say this is the subconscious realm. Okay, because we still have to talk about the mind, because yes, I did say consciousness is not of the mind, but if I don't talk about the mind, most people cannot relate it. So I would say this is the subconscious realm, because dreams are subconscious. It's it's like going to the cinema and watching a film, and you're just sitting there and you're watching a film is playing. Okay, lucid dreaming means you are one of the actors. If not, you're just watching the film. You have very little control over how the movie goes, right? So that's the subconscious mind projecting it, concocting whatever that you have learned throughout the day or the days or the weeks or the years, and it takes everything and it just crumples and then it makes up a magical cocktail of what you call as a dream, and sometimes very weird dreams, right? That's where it comes from, subconscious mind. So this will be the subconscious state, the mental state, the subtle state. Just now was the physical. This is now the subtle. Subconscious. Now the third one, the dreamless state. This is the unconscious state. Now, see, when I say unconscious, again, it means a few things, right? First of all, unconscious doesn't mean that you are like in a coma, like you fainted. I mean, sleep is in a way unconscious, but I don't mean like you're in a coma, you have fainted, you have lost consciousness. Okay, so I don't mean it like this, because anyhow, if I disrupt you, you'll get up again, right? If it's not your time. So it's, when I say unconscious, I mean that in the levels of the mind, this is the unconscious mind we're talking about. To put it in another language, then this would be the causal state. So from the gross, physical, we go to the subtle, which is the second one. Then we go now to the causal, to the root cause of things. Causal state. So in Sanskrit, we call this, the first one, the wakefulness state. We call this Jakruti. The second one, we call it Swapna. The third one, we call it Sushupti. Now the last one, the fourth one, it's an invisible state. Okay, you don't see it. All right? Most people in a lifetime, they would never access it. I'm sounding a bit harsh. If they have not done any conscious inner work in their entire lifetime, and most people have not done any work like this, right? If they don't walk the spiritual path, if they don't deepen their understanding, their realization, their experience of life, then they may never get to taste the fourth level of consciousness that I'm about to introduce. So the fourth level of consciousness is a state beyond physical, beyond mental, which is the second one, or the subconscious, and beyond the third one, which is the causal or the unconscious. It's beyond all three levels. So it's invisible, non-physical. This state is the silence that comes after AUM. So when you do the silence.
The silence at the end, right?
That comes after the A and the U and the M. The silence, we call this Turiya. Turiya or Turiya. Turiya. So Turiya is the deepest level of consciousness where everything has ceased to be. In other words, if I have to still say there is a you, all right, you have become one with existence, or you have become one with the universe. This is the universal state. Say, for example, you have access to Turiya, and I have access to Turiya. You have tapped into, and I have tapped into Turiya, this fourth state of consciousness. In this fourth state of consciousness, there is no more separation, no more boundaries, no more differentiation. Okay? It's a boundless state, infinite state. So, everyone on the spiritual path, if they're conscious about this, we all know it's all about expanding consciousness. It's about raising consciousness, right? We may use the right words, but what does it really mean at the end of the day? It means getting into Turiya. It means getting into deep samadhi, deep meditativeness, deep union or oneness with existence, with life, with universe. Though I use the word emptiness, silence, void, It's not what you think. Most people, when I use the word emptiness, they have a negative connotation about it. They would
Yeah.
think it's empty means, it's no
Empty,
good.
like no point in
Full
life.
is good. Empty is no good, right? Usually.
Yeah.
No. This emptiness is not a nihilistic thing. It's not a negative thing. This emptiness is where everything came to be. It's the source of creation. Where it's nothing. Like before the Big Bang, what happened? What was there? Nothing. But everything came from this nothing. I know this is deep because you are asking me such a deep question, right?
Yeah.
What is consciousness? And now, can you tell me the levels of consciousness? So there are 4 levels of consciousness. If we don't want to differentiate it or diversify it too much, these are the 4 levels of consciousness. Most people are only operating on the first 3, and they are not even aware of the third one. They're only mostly
first
playing with the
3.
first 2.
Oh, you mean the first 2?
The first 3, but they're not even aware of the third one,
I see.
where you're in a state of deep sleep.
Yeah.
Now, if you can be aware when you're in a state of deep sleep, then you're very close to the 4th one. If not, you're still playing with the first 2, which is wakefulness and dream, wakefulness and dream. So man is just oscillating between wakefulness and dream. You can say sleep. But deep sleep and you still knowing that you are in a state of deep sleep, that you're already moving towards the 4th one, which is emptiness, and which is what Buddhism speaks about.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
interesting. Yeah. We talked about what consciousness is and then the different levels of consciousness, right? So how is knowing all of this information, having all of this knowledge, how does it, apply to our practical everyday life? How does it help us to live a conscious life? Or before that, let's talk about what does it mean to live a conscious life? And then maybe we can go into how we can do that.
Right. So there are many aspects, many layers to this, but I want to simplify. How do we live a conscious life? So first off, we've already identified and talked about what consciousness is. So to integrate consciousness into your day-to-day living, that will be very important. That means fundamentally a few things, but there are many aspects, right? Do you know who you are? Do you know what the purpose of life is? Keep paying attention that I'm using the word no. But this no is not coming from knowledge. It's not coming from, oh yeah, I know because I read so many books on personality, on human psychology. No. This is still coming from a certain knowledge. So no comes from knowing. It comes from an inner experience. So when I ask, do you know who you are? It's not supposed to come from someone else, not even me, not even the books, not even the holy text, not even the Vedas, Puranas, Gitas, Upanishads, Qurans, Bibles. It's not supposed to come from any of such places, right? They are wonderful guides, with all due respect, but it's supposed to come from within. So knowing comes from within, right? So do you know, let me continue the series of questions. Do you know what you're doing right now? Now, a lot of people are doing things and they're busy doing things and they're so occupied doing things, but they don't know, like they're not present.
Yeah.
They're not there, here,
They're not
now.
fully aware, right?
Right. So do you know, obviously it signifies awareness. Are you fully immersed and aware in this present right now, whatever you're doing? It doesn't mean, a lot of people think being present means, I cannot do anything. A lot of people mean that.
Yeah, they have that misconception, right?
It means a bit of breathing, a bit of sitting, a bit of whatever else I've learned. It means I cannot do anything. Spirituality then becomes a disability. These people are spreading toxicity to spirituality, the good name of spirituality. I mean, forget what religion is now. Yes, and yes, enough of a bad rap already. But spirituality is supposed to be pure, supposed to be an empowerment, but people are making a disability out of it because I'm supposedly present and so-called mindful and so-called conscious, now I cannot do anything. I can just be. They're missing the point, right? You can do anything, but whatever it is you're immersing yourself in, you're involving in, you are conscious. Conscious means you are aware, you're present, you're fully alive. So at least this much. That if you need a few more questions, that they would be Do you? It's more or less the same question. Okay. Do you know what is the nature of your existence? Do you know what is the nature of life? Not just lifestyle. See, most people confuse these two very simple words, life and lifestyle. Whatever they're talking about, their life is actually lifestyle. Look at it. Oh, I bought a new car. Oh, I upgraded my, my equipments. Oh, I went to holiday. I did this. I went here. I tried this. I bought this. I possessed this. I signed up for that. Those things are great. They may help you level up your skills. They may add to your resume. They may give you a sense of, satisfaction, contentment. Those things are fine, but they are your lifestyles. They are items in your lifestyles. They are not your life. So life is fundamental. In fact, the closest synonym I have for consciousness is life. Life is consciousness. Aliveness, how alive you are to this present. This is consciousness. So how do we become conscious in our day-to-day living? Integrate all those things that I just mentioned in your day-to-day. See, you are breathing easily 15 breaths, 12 to 15 breaths a minute. And this is regarded as a normal average breathing, right? In fact, in my language, in the yogic language, 12 times to 15 times especially, it's a lot. Doctors are saying this is fine. This is because it's the norm,
Normal
right?
will be 15 to 16.
But it's too much, really. Anything above 8 is much. Now, it's not deadly, it's not terrible, but it's just too much, okay? So imagine 15 breaths a minute, okay? You times that by 60 minutes, times that by 24 hours. I do not know my numbers, but that's a lot. That's a lot of breaths. How many breaths are we generally aware of every day in, day out? And for most people, I'll be very honest, they're only aware of their breath when they're drowning in the swimming pool. Not drowning, but like, oh no, I'm out of breath. So they're suddenly aware of that one breath, okay? Yeah. Or when they are, I'm sorry, down with COVID, when even breathing is taking a toll on them, right? Breathing, if they breathe a few breaths without coughing, like they feel good, that. So generally, we are only aware of something when it does not work well. But when it works well, we take it for granted. That is not consciousness. Now, I don't mean you have to count your breaths. Oh, I'm on 1005, 1005 and 1, 1005 and 2. Not like this. That consciousness does not mean you have to use your mind and calculate and memorize. That's not consciousness. That's maybe what you call as mindful, which is not my language. Consciousness is beyond the mind. Consciousness just means beyond the mind, beyond the body, beyond your emotions, but it could involve your emotions. Am I being? Am I being? Full stop. Being what? Being means being in the present. Being can, of course, if you want to add a few words, being joyful, being lovely, being wonderful, being with you. Am I being right now? That is the pinnacle of consciousness.
Are there any practical steps that one can do, that anyone who's listening or tuning in can start right now, if they want to live a conscious life? Are there any practical step-by-steps that they can adhere to?
Now, this will come as a surprise to most of our listeners, because if you want to so-called deepen or expand or heighten, elevate your consciousness, the first and foremost thing to do is you have to clear the rubbish in your mind. That's why I say it was not as a surprise for most people. Because to heighten something, expand something, we think we have to push more of it. We have to, amplify it. Yeah, but you have no access. So right now, your only access for most people is through the mind. Because again, mind is a very tiny subcomponent of the vastness of consciousness that we are referring to in a spiritual context. So you can access it through the mind, which is one very practical way. But to access through the mind, first you have to clear off your mind's baggage, bondage, rubbish, right? And by clearing off those things, I mean whatever beliefs, not just those that no longer serve you, any beliefs for that matter. I know a lot of people on the internet are telling you to clear beliefs that no longer serve you. That's one way to reinforce other beliefs, right? No, all beliefs should go. Why? See, whatever you believe, whether it's something holy, whether it's something wonderful, whether it's a positive belief, right? It does not matter. Whatever you believe means you do not have the courage and the audacity and the sincerity to admit that you don't know shit. That you don't know.
Yeah.
If you know, do you still have to believe? Let me try.
Mm.
Can I just ask first? Is your mom still around?
Yes.
Okay. Then I'll talk about your dad then. I'm just playing with you. So do you believe that your dad is alive right now as we're speaking? Your dad is alive. Or do you know your dad is alive?
I know my dad is alive.
Okay, I'm glad. I did not
Because he just
overstep.
texted
I did not
earlier.
overstep any boundaries,
No,
right?
no, no.
Okay.
Not
No,
at
the
all.
point is, okay. Show me your fingers. Very quick one. All right, good. Do you know, I don't think you have to count them, but do you know you have 10 fingers right now? Or do you believe you have 10 fingers?
The last time I checked, I know. Just kidding.
Right.
I know I have 10
whenever you
fingers.
know something to be true for you, it may not be true for someone else yet. But whatever you know to be true for yourself, you no longer need to believe. So the belief system will collapse in place of true knowing, authentic knowing. So belief is no substitute for knowing. So if you want to raise consciousness, deepen, expand consciousness, the first thing is to remove those baggages in your mind, especially starting with your faulty, unserving, and all beliefs for that matter. Because belief means
beliefs,
you
any
don't
kind of
know.
beliefs.
Oh, I believe in God is a positive thing. No, you don't know. Don't know, you just say, I don't know. But I'm willing to know. I'm willing to find out. Therefore, I will seek. So the possibility of knowing, the door of knowing will open itself to you eventually. Okay? Avenues will come. Opportunities will come. People and resources and everything just will come in place, in time, for you to know. So knowing is the substitute. It's the only true substitute for believing. But now in today's world, we're just using believing rampantly. Oh, I believe in this. Oh, I don't believe in you. Oh, I believe that 1 + 1 should be 5. Just saying, I believe. So let's not go like this. So the first thing is to remove beliefs.
Right. Thank you so much, Dennis. Such a beautiful conversation. It's always an
Lovely.
insightful, enjoyable time with you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So to everyone who's tuning in, let us know in the comments below, in what way has this conversation been impactful to you? What are some of your big key takeaways, and what are some of the changes that you like to make in your life right now? And if you find this conversation or this podcast episode valuable, be sure to share it with your friends, family, your loved ones, or whoever you think will benefit from it. And be sure to catch us at Awaken Soul Podcast. We're available at Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and wherever podcasts are available. Also follow us on our social media. We're at Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Again, thank you so much everyone for playing your part in this great tapestry of life. I'm your co-host, Dr. Crystal Asong.
I'm your spiritual teacher, Dennis DeVos.
Until next time, namaste.
Namaskaram.